All right, as many of you are aware, a proposal was made to build a parking garage, a much needed parking garage for Monroe County workers at the Justice Building. Preliminary discussions. There was a lot of negativity, not only at City Hall, but also just your average Bloomingtonian looked at the structure and said, no, thank you. I think most people don't want to go to the farmer's market and then look across the street and have to stare at this. This is a parking garage. And by the way, they don't have to look like this. Nora Winter was here not long ago and told us, guess what? Parking garages don't have to look like this. They don't have to look like parking garages at all. And if you're going to build something that's a parking garage, do your best to make it look like a parking garage. And here we are going to build a blatant, ugly 8-story parking garage. Do we need parking? We absolutely do. But it doesn't have to look like this, I don't think. Now, it might cost us more money to do it differently. But here's what it looks like right now. This is looking southeast. And you can see the top of City Hall below in the photo. But we're looking southeast, and that's what it would look like, and that's what you're going to be staring at across the street from the farmer's market. I would suggest we don't have to have that kind of look. Here's another view looking northeast, up North Morton Street. You can see on the left is the brewery, Salt Creek Brewery, the old depot. And this is what it's going to look like from there. It doesn't look much better. But we need parking. We need parking, right? We just desperately need some parking. So let's look at a possibility then, or another option. Again, I want to preface this other option by stating I'm not an architect, I'm not a designer, I'm a critic, but I am neither of those things. I'm not, and I'm just throwing this together as a sort of, here's what generally it might or could look like. That doesn't mean it in any way that I think it has to look like this. It's just an example of what could be done if we did something different that would fit in with the development of North Morton, our buy-in on new urbanism, and that's something we've been talking about for a long time here. I think it would be a really nice commercial space. This is what it looks like right now. You can see it is an ugly fence, so it's pretty ugly already. We tried to cover it with some trees, but it's ugly. There's a fence there, and it's a parking lot. And then to add to the ugliness, to the right of the parking lot is one of the most ugly buildings along North Morton Street. And it was built, I can't even remember what year, but it's ugly. Now, north or left of the parking lot is a newer structure that's built of brick. And it, maybe you don't like the style or whatever, but, it's aspiring to be something interesting. It is sort of made to be very little as Smallwood hovers over it like it's going to, take a big bite out of it and engulf it. Right behind the white building is our not-so-beautiful Justice Building. It is what it is, and it needs parking. So what could we do? Well, the first thing I did was make this a brick structure. Doesn't have to be brick. But if we want to stay consistent with a lot of the things that have been built on North Walnut, I suggest we stick to brick. And I'm just kind of throwing this together. Commercial space on the bottom floor, which will be I think it'll be vibrant commercial space that could be rented out, because I think being right across the street from the farmer's market would be a big bonus. And above, I put residential. Apartments. I don't know. I would like to live in an apartment that overlooked the farmer's market. I think that would be really, really cool. And here, behind this new structure, I have put the parking lot. Now, since this is a 4-story structure, the first 4 stories of the parking garage will be completely hidden in this view. You wouldn't even be able to see it. Now, as we add more floors to the structure, we need to step those floors back, as I sort of show you here. Again, this is not a professional program I am using. I'm just sort of drawing it as I see it. What you make those extra floors that are stepped back of, it's open for discussion. I don't have the answer. But let's look at it from an aerial view. To the left, you can see the farmer's market, and to the right of the farmer's market is the building, the thin little building I just showed you that will act as the commercial and residential facade, at least for the first 4 stories, for the parking garage. The first 4 floors you won't even be able to see, which is fantastic unless you're stuck between Smallwood and 8th Street, where there will be an opening for the parking garage, and I'm sure it'll be pretty evident from the north side that it is a parking garage. But let's face it, not a lot of people walk down that street. Why? Well, because Smallwood is pretty intimidating, and it's just not a place a lot of people walk, honestly. Now, the 5th and 6th floors will be stepped back, as seen here, and the 7th and 8th floors will be stepped back even further. They're sort of cascading towards the Justice Building and away from Morton Street. And there's your stairs and elevator. The entrance, as I said before, will be on West 8th Street, and you'll be able to get out through the stairs and elevators and get to work on the south side. So I started doing some math, and I started looking at a lot of other parking garages and the way parking is set up to be its most efficient, which is astonishing to me when I, after doing so, looking at the fact that we could only fit, 268 parking spots in the garage if it were built as currently proposed. To me, it just seems we're just not doing something very efficient. In the first 4 floors of this parking garage, which is actually smaller, you should be able to fit 49 vehicles on the bottom 4 floors, the biggest 4 floors. And those 49 spaces times 4 will give you 196 parking lots on the bottom 4 floors. As we move up to the 5th and 6th floors, you should be able to get 38 parking lots. So that gives you another 76 spots. As we move up to the 7th and 8th floors, which are, again, as we cascade towards the Justice Building, floor 7 and 8 should get another 28 spots each, times 2. That's 56 more parking lots. Total potential parking lots would be 328. The current proposal is at 268. But you say, what about the emergency space? Okay, so if we reserve the whole bottom floor for emergency space in the plan, I'll still have more parking spaces in this garage than we're getting right now at 268, with 279 spaces still left over. So what are some of the benefits of doing a proposal like this? Well, number one, it removes the parking garage look from the face of Morton Street. No one wants to walk down Morton Street and see yet another parking garage, especially not right across the street from the farmer's market. Commercial and residential space for rent should create some income long term. We won't be able to cover the costs of building the more expensive parking garage right away. That'll come long term from rentals of both the commercial and the residential space, which I think are great spots to have to both have a business and to live. So we should be able to make up the money long term. I mean, it is a highly visible commercial space. I mean, I've said this already. I would want to open a business right across from the farmer's market. Not only that, everybody coming out of City Hall, will be able to, the first thing they're going to see are these, 3 businesses on the bottom floor. I can't think of it. If you own a restaurant, a really cool and awesome restaurant right there, outside of City Hall, people walking out of it, that's going to be the first thing they see. And most of all, 4-story structure that would cover the face of this parking garage is more consistent with the theme that we've been working on along North Morton now for years. Yet, you're also getting a parking garage, which is what everybody wants. And as Laura Winter said when he was here, and I'm paraphrasing, if you're going to do something like this, do it right. Do it right. Don't build something you're not going to be proud of 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. Something, in many cases, many people are not going to be proud of right away. They're going to look at that parking garage and go, why did we do that? Why do we keep doing these things when we know there's a better way, when we know there are better options? So let's go ahead and let's take a trip back to the one of the original renderings for the parking garage and sort of plop, the new building in and see how it would look different from a parking garage. Again, I'm not an artist, I'm not a designer, I'm not an architect. Just saying, imagine what I'm putting in here looked really, really good. Okay, just imagine it looked really good. And was another option. So here we plot the facade I was talking about. That's not really a facade because it's an actual real building with commercial space and residential space above. And as we sort of cover up the garage with what the new structure would look like as it stepped back from the sidewalk. And again, I'm not real good with angles or anything, but this gives you a general idea. Now again, what materials do you want to use for those upper floors? I don't know. As long as they're quality materials and they look good and they're consistent with what we're trying to do on North Morton, I think that's going to be fine. But that's for another discussion. My immediate concern is not to have a garage. I don't want a garage on North Morton Street, and I don't think a lot of other people want a garage either. So this is kind of like what it would look like, this building would look like, step back from North Morton. I wish I could come up with better and more views to give you a better idea, but if you're walking along North Morton Street, you're not even going to see those buildings in the back. As you walk past the new commercial space and residence, you're basically just going to see the top 4 floors. You're going to have to step way, way back to see the additions for parking above. And then you really probably won't even know that's parking. You shouldn't be able to tell that's parking. And the only space you're probably going to be able to tell it is for parking is going to be on the north side of the building between Smallwood and this building. That's just an idea. It's a proposal. Thought I'd throw it out there because I think I sympathize and empathize with the folks that, especially during the winter, have to walk all the way from the convention center to the Justice Building to go to work. And I think the Monroe County workers deserve a place to park. At the same time, I think the city deserves a parking garage that doesn't look like a parking garage. Let's start practicing what we preach. At least let's start practicing some of the best practices that folks have been presenting to us from other cities that other cities are using to hide their parking garages so you don't even know they're parking garages. One of the reasons a lot of people want to live here and stay here and work here and spend their money here in Bloomington is because they love downtown Bloomington. They love the core area. They love the small town feel. I think the more we make Bloomington the most attractive, wonderful place to live that we possibly can, and we're building structures that are at least B+ structures or A- structures instead of D- and C+ and C structures, or even some cases F structures, as in failures. The more A's and B buildings that we decide have to be built, because long term that's better for our city financially, the better Bloomington is going to be as we forge into the future. Let's not make a short-sighted decision now and spend as little as we possibly can now to solve a problem that we're all going to have to stare at for the next 50 years, if some of us are going to live that long. I won't, but even the next 30 years of my life, I don't want to stare at that building and I don't want folks who come to the farmers market to have to stare at that building. All right, that's my point of view. Take care.